Hello, I'm Dale Ander. I'm a member of the Control Center Development and Support Team. Welcome to a series of videos covering the key capabilities of Control Center Monitor. If you don't know, Control Center Monitor can be used to track key actions and activities that are occurring across your B2B and file transfer infrastructure. This video is going to cover the feature called Service Level Criteria, or SLCs. SLCs are used to let you know when things that are important, like transfers and processes, arrived files, things like that, don't occur. Because you can use the events generated by your SLCs to trigger rules, and with those rules, you can do your notifications, send emails, send SMB traps, generate a SEV1 alert. So let me show you how to create an SLC that lets you know that an important transfer did not occur by 5 p.m. on Fridays. Log in as admin. We're on our dashboard. I'm going to click on the Manage option in the toolbar. And I'm going to go to Workflow SLCs. Now, you have your choice of several types of SLCs. They're standard, wildcard, workflow, and simple. I highly recommend you just use Workflow SLCs. They provide you with the most flexibility and capability. And that's just what I recommend you use. So we're going to create one right now. Clicked on that blue Create button. I'm going to give it a name. I highly recommend you come up with a good naming convention before you do much with Control Center. By having good names, you can avoid creating the same thing multiple times. You can also know what something does for you just by looking at the name, and you won't have to open it up to look at the details. So this SLC is going to be to ensure that the process important runs on Fridays by 5 p.m. Central Time, because we want to be exact. And that's a good enough. You can enter up to a 255 character description if you like. We're not going to change the monitor window tolerances. These are used in conjunction with your schedule to tell the SLC service how much time it should look before your schedule starts and how much time it can look or should look, will look after your schedule ends for events that match the criteria you're going to specify. But I recommend you just use zeros. Now, we do want to make sure that our SLC is enabled. We absolutely want to make sure that it generates notifications if an event has not occurred, because without these notifications, our rules that we're going to set up to notify us would never be triggered. And I recommend you just suppress milestone messages. Our workflow SLCs will be comprised of milestones, and each of those milestones will cause events to be generated, but the only events we're going to care about are the ones at the high level, at the outside level, the workflow level events. So let's suppress these and click Next. If that 255 character description wasn't enough for you, you are allowed to enter up to approximately 2 gigabytes in this note field, so quite the book. I'm going to click Next. Now, DVGs allow for another level of functionality that we don't need, not for this example for sure. So we're going to just not select any DVGs and create what's called a global workflow SLC. Now, we have to associate a schedule, and in this case, our SLC is to ensure that process important runs on Fridays by 5 p.m. Central Time, I already have a schedule. Look at this. Fridays by 5 p.m. Central Time. This is why it's so important to have a good naming convention. I actually created this schedule in another video. So I need to select it by moving it over to the right, the list of selected schedules. You are allowed to have multiple schedules for a single SLC. They can be both duration schedules and calendar schedules. This is a calendar schedule. Why would you maybe have multiple schedules? Maybe this important process runs on Mondays also. And if so, I could put another calendar schedule that identified when that was supposed to run on Mondays. Or maybe there's also a time, a duration that's important that I need to make sure that this important process not only finishes by 5 p.m. but doesn't take more than 5 minutes. If that was true, I could also add this duration 0 to 5 minutes over here, but we're not going to do that. I'm going to click Next. Now, milestones can be relative to the actual start of your workflow or the scheduled start. Remember, I suppressed milestone messages, and I recommend you always suppress milestone messages, in which case this is unimportant. Now, concurrence count, that matters. For the calendar schedule that we associated with this, that was Fridays, Central Time, 5 p.m., that said the concurrence count of 1 says we only expect that process name important to run once. If we knew it needed to run 5 times, then I would click this to increase the concurrence count to 5. And then if it ran 4 times but not a 5th time, I would get events about the 5th time that it did not run. But it's very important to get this concurrence count correct because you don't want false alerts generated by events that should never have been generated. That process is only supposed to run once. My concurrence count needs to be 1. Correlator source, we're not going to set a correlator source. That's only important when you have multiple milestones in your workflow, and we only need 1. We don't need to set a Jeopardy list. We don't need to set a Fire Once list. So I'm going to click Next. Now's where we add our milestones. These milestones identify the criteria that match the events that show something did run. And you can have multiple milestones, but for this workflow, we only need a single milestone, the milestone that watches for the process named important. So milestones have names, just like your workflows have names, but they're very unimportant, so just don't worry about them. I'm going to click, they do have to be unique. Now, here's where I enter my match criteria for this milestone in my workflow. You always have to specify a server. So I clicked on the pull down. I'm going to specify my server, and I think I passed the name. Server groups, okay. Where is it? Server, there it is. I don't know how I missed it. Now you specify either a regex and a value, which would be a regular expression, or you can choose wildcard. And wildcard expressions are easier to use. They're less flexible. But, you know, I can specify an exact thing, and that's what I want to do. Important, because, oh, this is the server. Sorry about that. The server is going to be Dander 2K. Now, if that process important could run on multiple servers, then I could use a wildcard or a regular expression to identify all of them. But in this case, it's only going to run on this one server, or it's only supposed to run on this one server. So I need to add another parameter. And what's that parameter? This one is going to be for the process. This time I'm just going to start typing instead of going through that pull down list and missing what I wanted. My process name Doesn't matter whether it's regex or wildcard because I'm going to type the exact name. And this is all I need to do. I know that this process named important does a transfer, but it only does one transfer. So I only need to make sure that the whole process runs to know that the transfer occurred. And I recommend you do not specify more parameters than are necessary. It's just not efficient. Again, I don't need to specify a correlator for this milestone because there's only going to be one milestone in this SLC. Next. Now, you're always asked to give some timings for this milestone. It's really never critical, so I always recommend you put in a duration and a minimum duration of 0 and a maximum duration of how long will that milestone ever run at most. Now, I know that the process important typically runs in a matter of seconds, so I'm going to specify a maximum duration of a minute because I know that's way more than enough. So I'm going to go next. And now I've got the summary showing for my milestone. Got the unimportant name. It's looking for a process named important that's supposed to run on a server named dander2k. And I just said in this milestone, because I had to give something for a schedule, that the minimum duration is 0 hours, minutes, and seconds, and the maximum is 1 minute. And I'm saving it. And that's the only milestone that I need, so I'm going to click Next now. And I've got my summary for the whole SLC. Process important, Fridays, 5 p.m. Central Time. It's enabled. Good. Generate notification if the event has not occurred. Good. Suppress milestone messages. Yes. Don't need a monitor tolerance, start or end. No DVGs. We've got our schedule selected, Fridays by 5 p.m. Central Time. That's good. We have one milestone, M1. That's good. Submit. Now, an SLC will cause events to be generated when this process important runs or doesn't run. Now we need rules, though, to watch for those events so that we can be notified. Unless you have the rules in place, the events will be generated, but nothing will be there to watch for them to do the right thing. To generate our rules, we'll go over to the navigation pane on the left again, and we'll just click Rules. I'm going to click plus to create one. This screen's a little bit different than the others. Again, I want to give a good name. And you know, I want this name to be for the process important runs Fridays by 5 p.m. And I'm going to say what event parameters trigger this rule. So I know that it's going to be an SLC event, so I'm going to type event type. Here it is. Matches. SLC. Okay. Now, unfortunately, I need one more detail here, and it was the name of the SLC. So let's go back to my list of SLCs, and I'll go here. And this is the problem with creating such a detailed name. I'm going to copy that. Now, I'll go back to rules, create the rule, and I'll just name the rule after the SLC, and go to event parameters that trigger the rule, specify the event details, the event type, matches, SLC notification, okay. Now, I need another that says SLC name, because I only want this rule triggered for my SLC, matches. Now I paste in that SLC name, and now I want this rule triggered when one of two events occur, and I just know this, all right? And now you will know it too once you see it. So we want to watch for events with one of two message IDs. So the event type, the event key is going to be message ID. The operator needs to be regex because it's one of two messages. One of them is, and I'm going to click on the ... and I know that all SLC events start with SLC, but the first one that we want to capture says that it didn't start by the normal end range end, and that's 027E. Did not start by normal end range end. So that means that the process that we specified the criteria for didn't even start, let alone end, by our 5 p.m. But I also want to specify one more, and that is SLC 38. Let's see. Yeah, did not end by normal end range end. And what that means is, all right, so the SLC service saw that process start within the schedule that you specified, but it didn't see it end by our 5 p.m. So therefore, I'm going to generate an event. So when is this rule active? All the time. We don't need to set a schedule. What do we want to happen when this rule is triggered? Well, let's say that we want to generate a Sev1 alert. Other options, you select your own actions, you can send emails, you can generate an SNMP trap, you could do all of the above, even run a command, a shell script or something. So this is all we need for this rule. It's very specific. It's going to be triggered by only SLC events that have our SLC name in them. And I guess I can't believe that, but I'm not going to worry about it yet. I'm going to click Save. We can go back and double check. Here's our rule. It's in position 63, which means it's the lowest priority. And here's our message ID. It is CSLC 027E and CSLC 038E. It's a little glitch in the code there. Now this is the bottom priority rule. This is a very specific rule. I recommend you move it up to position 1, the highest priority, because we don't want any other rules to accidentally be triggered by the event that says our process important didn't end or even start by 5 p.m. on Fridays. Now we need to create one more rule, and that's to catch all the other events generated from our SLC, because we don't want them to trigger any of these other lower priority rules. Now the easiest way to do it, the best way to do it, it's not the only way, but the only way I would ever do is to duplicate the rule. and that you just created. And over here, we'll click on duplicate. Now we do need to give it a new name, but just leave that and put no op after it, because what is this going to do? It's going to do nothing. It's going to cause nothing to happen. And I'll tell you more in a moment, but first thing we'll do is we'll change this action. We have to delete it, and then we'll choose. There is a built-in action called no operation. That's exactly what we want. The one other thing that we need to do here while we're creating is to modify the criteria. Right now it matches the one that watches for these important events that said something did not occur. We want a rule to catch all the other events for this SLC, and that's what this will do. We've got our event type is SLC, and we've got our SLC name is important. So, and we've got the action set to no operation. We'll save it. And we know that the rule that sends us notifications is priority 1. We just need to make this rule priority 2. And now all the events that come from our SLC will trigger either the first highest priority rule or the second rule. And the first one watches for the events we care about to send us a notification, actually just a Sev1 alert, whereas this one will make sure that all the other SLC events that get generated from our SLC don't trigger any of these other built-in rules that are still enabled. So that's it. We're good to go. If that process named important does not run by 5 p.m. anymore, we'll get an alert that you can see on the Control Center dashboard. Looks like I have a lot of them. All right, everybody, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I really hope you learned something from it, and that you watch others. But that's it for this one. Take care. Have a great day. Bye for now.